computer. All right, good morning. Evan Russell with the Russell Realty Minute. We're going to start a new series here with my teammate and friend, Scott Murphy of Guaranteed Rate. Welcome, Scott. How you doing, buddy?
Evan, thanks so much for having me. I'm great. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. So as you know, I have 120 episodes on Russell Realty Minute. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, anywhere you might want to find it. So what we're trying to do here at the Russell Realty Minute is we're trying to move from a straight audio podcast to integrating a little bit of video. So I figure the best way to start with the video is to begin to do some interviews. So Scott and I have been working together for well over 15 years. He's been in the business since 2003, 2017 with Guaranteed Rate, which is Massachusetts' #1 lender. And he does a wonderful job. We've done hundreds of deals together over the years. We've got a pretty good synergy going on how to make things work. So what I'd like to do is we're going to bring Scott on. We're going to try to bring him on probably every week, maybe every two, just to kind of dabble in and see, what's happening in the market, see what kind of questions he's getting. You've been listening to me for the last 4 or 5 years, express my opinion, my questions on what I'm finding, but it might be good to hear from some other people. So Scott, welcome. Why don't you give him a quick intro? I give you a little bit. Why don't you add a little bit to that, and then we'll dive right in.
Sure. So I'm a Guaranteed Rate guy. So if I'm going to write mortgages, I want to work for a mortgage company. If I'm going to work for a mortgage company, I want to work for the best mortgage company. In my opinion, that is Guaranteed Rate. So we are the gold standard in the purchase business mortgage lending community and a trusted brand. So people trust us to do a proper pre-approval and to deliver closings on time and hassle-free. So that's what we aim to do.
Good job. And Guaranteed Rate, for if you don't know, is Massachusetts or wherever you may be watching or listening to this. I'm in Massachusetts. Scott's in Southern New Hampshire, but he writes, majority of his business in Massachusetts here, being born and raised in Mass. For those listening to Russell Realty Minute, I'm in North Reading. I'm about 15 miles north of Boston. Scott, at this particular moment, is up in Southern New Hampshire. He's probably 45 minutes from me. So everything we talk about from this perspective is going to be based on the greater Boston area. Although the answers may be true no matter where you are. But from our perspective, it's going to be, in greater Boston. And today's date is April 19th, 2022. So if you catch this on YouTube a year from now or 2 years from now, the present time we're talking about is April 19th, 2022, in this ridiculous, crazy, unpredictable, exciting, frustrating, tear-jerking kind of market. So let's kick right off. So the biggest thing that I think I get questions on when I'm speaking to home buyers, and we, of course, we generate, a good amount of home buyer leads, home buyer traffic. We'll call them interested buyers that are trying to figure out where they should start, what they're looking at, that sort of thing. And if they've started to look for a home 6-8 months ago, their interest rate may have been 3%, 3.2. Now, when we call them today, the interest rates are what? What's the current rate today?
I think almost everything that we're looking at, 30-year fixed, you're probably going to see over 5 right now. We might have moments where it dips a little bit below, and you might see that first number start with a 4. And if you can get that, lock it in. But generally speaking, we're looking at over 5 right now.
All right. So if I had a $500,000, I know you ran some numbers before our meeting here, our call here. So let's start with the $500,000 mark. If I had a $500,000 pre-approval 6 weeks ago or 3 months ago, what does that get me today?
Evan, I actually ran a few of these just to see what it would look like at different price points, and I'm going to run them down if that's okay.
Let's do it.
So at $300,000 a little while ago, we might have been able to get that at 2.875. That payment at 2.875 would have been $1,245 per month. Now at 5%, that's $1,610 per month.
Holy moly,
that's $365 per month difference at that price point. At $300,000. We're going to go to $400,000 next. $400,000, Evan, at 2.875, that would be $1,659 per month. And now at 5%, that same dollar amount would be $2,147. That's $488 per month difference, just from 2.875 to 5. At that 500,000 price point that you just asked about, at 2.875, Evan, that would be $2,074 per month back then. Now that same loan amount at 5% would be $2,684. So at 500,000, that delta is going to be $610 per month.
All right, let's hold right there. Let's hold right there for a minute.
Okay, sure.
So what was the new payment at 500?
At 500, going from $2,074 at 2.875 to $2,684 per month at 5%.
So tell me, what's that difference? Six what?
That is $610 per month erosion with somebody's purchasing power.
Now, keep in mind on a monthly mortgage payment, you've got tax, you've got, well, that a little bit of interest in there, but you got to put a property tax in there. You might have to put your homeowner's insurance in there. What else equates to the final number at that 500?
So in addition to the principal and interest that we just talked about, people certainly would have property taxes. 1/12 of that property tax bill would have to be built into the mortgage payment too for most people, as well as homeowner's insurance, which could range for a very light property premium, anywhere from $600 per month to maybe upwards closer to $2,000 per month.
Right. So let me ask you.
If somebody's not putting down 20%, then they might have some form of PMI baked into that payment too.
Geez, all right. So how do you think is that? So let me ask you, this is a real conversation, right? Do people care? Do people call you and say, oh my God,
people who need to buy and sell are going to need to buy and sell. Some people are reluctant to let go of that lower interest rate and maybe want to move. So I think that might hold back a lot of the people that were considering buying. They might want to see what the rest of the market looks like before they sell. And then there are some people where they're getting pushed out. So we have to do meetings weekly with people just to let them know what their payment can buy them each week. And anyone pushing max financing, we need to let them know if they can still afford that same house that they were interested in last week.
Right. Crazy. So when people are, what we found really is when we're going through our buyer calls and we're trying to identify buyers that may be interested, what they ask is they say, well, I think I might be 500. I think I might be 600. But what they're basing that on is they're basing it on their payment, right? I mean, you don't go to the car dealer and say, I want to buy a $70,000 car. You go to the car dealer and you say, I want to spend $500 a month, right? So what do you want to pay for? So I want to pay 500, then kind of work their way down. Do you find that people are more interested in what the monthly payment is going to be more so than, hey, I want a $700,000 approval? I think that most people don't even know what a $700,000 payment is, right?
I'm glad you brought that question up. I think if you ask 10 different people, you might get 10 different answers, and I'm going to give you mine. So I think most people talk about what they understand, and a lot of people know what they like, which is they see a home online and they know they like it, and then they want to know what that payment might look like. And then they decide based on that payment whether that might be for them. So I think that's kind of how it works for a lot of people. I think for me, one of the reasons why I think I do better than the next person when it comes to helping my people convert is we talk about the money here. There are a lot of people that do what I do, and for one reason or another, Evan, they just don't talk about the money. So before we send our people out into the wild to go looking at homes and before they get emotionally attached to a property, we want to make sure they understand what the money looks like. And they're hopefully feeling good about it and very comfortable. We want them to know what their loan program is. We want them to know what their purchasing power might be as far as their purchase price, what their loan amount is going to look like, interest rate, down payment, closing costs. We want them to know what all that money looks like. So before they go getting completely invested in the property, they at least have an idea, if not a very finite number that goes with that, very exact. And then they can just figure out whether or not they like the property, and then they can make an offer from there.
So how many people come to you, right? People don't, and by nature, and I can just tell you from my experience, yours might be a little different, but when we're working with potential buyers and sellers, just buyers, they don't typically talk to the money guy first. They go shopping first and they see what they like, right? And then we say, well, have you talked to a lender? Well, it's like, well, not yet. And then they go and they, oh, geez, we know they're 500 turns of 400. Do you find, and I know that you acquire some opportunities through a variety of different ways. Don't they come in through the property first? Like you just said, I like 52 Main Street.
Sure. Yeah. There's some people, they've been thinking about it for a long time, and they say, all right, this is what I'm looking to do, and this is what I think I should do. I don't know what I can afford, and they'll come to me first. And then there's other people where it's something that's been on their mind, and maybe they see a particular property, and that's really what spurs them to talk to a lender for the first time.
Right.
Hey, I really like this property. Can I do this?
All right. So let me switch gears on you. We didn't talk about this, but I'm going to switch gears on you. In the real estate world, there's something called a home valuation tool. What's my home worth in Boston? Zestimate, whatever the case is. And you go to one of those home valuation estimators and they'll spit you out a valuation, and it's probably not right. In this particular case, it's probably low because the home valuation sites can't keep up with something that closed yesterday or a week ago or 2 weeks ago or even 30 days ago that might up your price. Do you think that the home buyers are putting the numbers in the mortgage loan calculators on these sites? And do you think there's a problem, or what's the downside of using one of these automated mortgage calculators that you see on some of these bigger sites, right? The Zillows, the Redfins, the Realtors, they've all got, I think even my site's got a mortgage calculator on it. How do those numbers differ?
Well, first, let me tell you,
put you right on the spot, buddy.
This is a loaded question. There's really no substitute for an actual appraisal done by a human appraiser. They actually go to school for this kind of thing, and they have an education on this. And there are things that they are able to apply that the system just can't do it. It just can't.
Right.
So it's a loaded question, really, and it's so much bigger of a topic that we can do on another day. But there's definitely, I think what you want to know is there a disconnect, and what can we do about it? And at the end of the day, there's definitely a disconnect. And I'm not sure what yet we can do about it, except just make sure we communicate at a high level and keep our eyes on the prize, should there be a disconnect, and then know what our next moves might be. If an appraisal were to not come in, what can be done? We could have the seller come down, we could have the buyer come up, they could split the difference, and failing that, they could walk away. So I think coaching to be able to put a deal together and keep it together is super important too.
Right on. Okay. So real quick. So if let's just bring it back real quick. So if I go to Realtor and I put in 500,000, X percent equals X payment, and people think that that's what the payment is, that's wrong, right?
That is all going to depend on the inputs. It's garbage in, garbage out sometimes. Right. So if property taxes aren't pulled right from MLS, or if there's not a semi-accurate idea as to what the homeowner's insurance premium might be, or if the interest rates, it also assumes that people might have a credit too, and not everybody fits in the same box.
Right.
Mortgage lending and interest rates are not one size fits all. So oftentimes what people are going to see, Evan, is they're going to see the best possible terms that somebody might be able to qualify for. But the fact of the matter is, not everybody's going to qualify for those terms. In fact, most people aren't.
Agreed.
So that's what people want. That's what people call for. And sometimes that's what people base their assumptions on, which goes back to, once again, working with the right professionals. It's super important to talk to an actual mortgage lender and not trust the online mortgage payment calculator.
Agreed. And that's like the old, I always go back to the car reference. I'm not sure why I always do, but it's like you see a billboard where you can lease a Jeep for $229 a month. And you go to the dealership and you say, hey, I want to lease a Jeep for $229 a month. You're like, well, there's one of those. It's way in the back, and you got to have $850 credit and $25,000 down, right? So, but I want that payment, right? But that's really not how it works, and that's good, because I do believe that people are guesstimating what they can improve and what they think they can improve. So I've got another loaded question for you. We're flowing pretty good here. This is a really loaded question. You're totally unprepared for it. I saw online the other day somebody made a joke that says, you can't approve me for my $400,000 payment, $400,000 mortgage at $2,100, as an example, at $2,100 a month, but I'm paying $2,800 a month in rent. Why does my rent number not equate or line up with what a lender will approve me for, right? Because there are many people who are paying $2,500, $2,600, $2,800 a month in Greater Boston, as you know, but that won't translate into spending power with the lender. Why is that different?
Well, once again, I think if you ask 10 different people, you might get 10 different answers here on this one, Evan, but I can speak from the arena that I come from, and that's mortgage lending. So there's a standardization with mortgage lending. Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA, all these big governing bodies that regulate mortgage guidelines and such, they have what they call risk models. So they've determined appropriate ratios, debt to income, that kind of thing. Also collateral-based stuff too. For what they can call day one certainty for what a good loan might look like. There's no such standardization when it comes to rent, so that's really up to the individual landlords what they're willing to accept for risk.
Right.
So I can tell you why we do what we do, but I can't tell you why landlords might do what they do. But what I can tell you is their motivations, they're trying to get people in there. So sometimes they might take on a little more risk than they should. And oftentimes that might lead to non-payment from tenants and eviction.
Right. Fair enough. It is a question that comes up, and there are some, memes or mimes or whatever you call them, the Emmys that say, geez, I can't afford a $400,000, mortgage, but I can pay $2,900 in rent. So it's kind of funny. Is there a standard, a debt to income standard that a mortgage looks for? Like you got to be 48% of debt to income or 47% of debt to income. Is there something like that someone could use a barometer for?
The short answer to the question is yes. And I find people tend to fall into usually one group or another. There's the people that want to borrow more than they can afford. Some of those people are already struggling, but for whatever reason, they might want to take on more debt. And then there's other people where we will never bump our heads on the ceiling of what they might qualify for. They'll borrow way under that. And that's one of the reasons why they might have spectacular credit, because they live well within their means.
Right. Right. All right, man. Good.
But as far as ratios go, short answer, we're talking about qualifying income. The big one is most of these loan programs, they do not allow a housing payment to exceed more than 45% of whatever borrower's gross qualifying income might be. And what somebody might make and what they might actually show on paper could be two very different things altogether.
Right.
So when I say qualifying income, that's what we're using on our end.
Yep.
And then the different loan programs, some of them might still cap out their housing plus the other debts on their credit report might still be 45%. Then there's others that might go to like 50, assuming they've got some discretionary income left over. And then there's others where, for instance, FHA might go to say 56.99% with the housing plus somebody's other debts.
Right.
So that they do vary, but the housing payment typically can exceed 45%.
Right.
And
on.
this is, the written guidelines sometimes say lower, but the automated underwriting system, which is the software that we can plug files into, there's a risk model baked into that. So what it does, it assesses all the factors in the file. And if that returns an approval, then typically the underwriter will say, just so long as we can meet the conditions that are printed out, we can exceed what's written in the guidelines and go with the automated underwriting approval.
Right, right. All good stuff. All good stuff. Let's wrap with this last question. I know we talked about this, and I think you even said there might not even be an answer, but what's the most common question you get, right? You get opportunities that come through different spots. You get opportunities, referrals from different agents. You get them on the phone. Hi, I'm Scott, guaranteed rate. How are you, Evan? Hey, what's going on? Tell me what you're trying to do. What do they say? What's their first couple questions they ask you?
I think some people are a little guarded when it comes to their credit report. I think the biggest question, a lot of people don't want a hard credit check, but I think what they don't realize is the entire reason they've built a lifetime of good things into their credit profile is for this big moment. This is showtime right here. It's undoubtedly the largest purchase they will ever have made to date, far beyond what they might have spent on any car. So I think a lot of people are hesitant to have a credit report. Do you need to check my credit? And the answer to that question is, if we're going to do a proper pre-approval, not just a pre-qualification, the difference between the two is a different conversation for another day. We could do a whole other podcast or anything else on just that subject. But the difference between that is being able to do a hard credit check and be able to see exactly what we can and can't do for somebody. So I think people are a little guarded. There's a lot of other answers, but I think that's one of the biggest ones, that people are just a little guarded about wanting to let somebody look at their credit.
That's awesome. And let me ask you this question, kind of my own personal opinion. It's kind of something that comes across, and I sometimes I poo-poo it. Maybe I shouldn't, but sometimes I will. Do you really think that the current buyer today, the millennial buyer, the 20-something, the 30-something, even maybe the 40-something, do you really think they view it as, hey, this is the biggest purchase of my life? Or do they view it as, it's my housing payment and it's going to do people really buy homes and be like, I'm going to die here? Right? Or do they just say, you know what, I'm spending $2,800, I'd rather buy something? And do they really view it as or is it just kind of just something that we've adopted over the years? But is it really the biggest purchase of life? Do people see it that way?
I believe they do. So I believe especially the millennials, they get a bad rap when it comes to some things. And don't get me wrong, back to memes. Memes are funny. We've got memes for our generation too. Yep. So there's a lot that goes with that, but I don't think they get enough credit for a lot of their sophistication. A lot of them are very much self-educated. They're able to bring in information and absorb that and process it and apply it to whatever it might be. Certainly, once again, no substitute for professional real estate or mortgage consultation. But I do believe many of them realize that if they're going to achieve true wealth in this country, it's far better to be building equity with borrowed money for a house that is just going to gain value, essentially standing still for a lot of these people. The housing market has always done well, even if it's had dips here and there. So I think a lot of them realize it's far better to own something and just to get in as early as possible, just to keep pace.
Right.
So a lot of them so there's some people that say, all right, well, it's so expensive now, I'm not going to do it. And then there's other people that realize, wow, it just keeps getting more expensive, that I need to get in now, today. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to keep pace. So I think there's kind of two different camps there, but I would say the millennials definitely recognize the importance of home ownership.
Nice. Good stuff, my man. Very, very good. Very first, good first edition. Let's circle back next week if you want. We'll keep the conversation going. Sound good?
All right. Thanks so much for having me today, Evan.
All right, buddy. You're the man. I'll catch you later. Good talking to you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, buddy. Bye-bye.